Hi, this is Rust and Magic, and welcome to the first video about getting your DAZ characters into LightWave. So this is a Genesis 2 character, and we are going to export this from DAZ and get it into LightWave and working well there. So we're going to export our character as an FBX. So we go to the export and enter a name for this. I'm going to call it character. And then we need to set some options here. We don't need the animation, so we're going to disable that. We are going to need the morphs, so we need to check that one. We don't need the embedded textures. It always gets turned on every second time you're trying to export in DAZ. It's some kind of bug there. Just use collect textures, so we get them into a folder so we can use them later. That's the best choice normally. We might choose FBX 2018. Works well in the later LightWave. If you have problems, you can use an earlier versions. Down to 2012 should work fine. We're going to need a number of morphs. As you can see, I have a quite long list of morphs here that I'm exporting. I want a lot of the clothes and hair morphs. We're most likely going to delete these. And there's also a high number of facial expressions. Here we have the X-away morphs. These are to shrink the body parts in some places, which is good to make room for the clothes to avoid poke through. We have a number of facial expressions here of all different kinds. It's both full facial expressions and lips and eye movement and so on. It's better to export too many than too few because it's easy to delete them in LightWave later. So just get everything you might need and then you can clean it up in LightWave later on. No problem. We have the speaking morphs, and there's more X-away morphs, and we have the eye movement that we're going to use later on to improve the eye movement. And there's some clothes and other stuff here. So there's lots of morphs. And we're going to export them all, and it's going to take a while. So I am going to speed this part up a little bit because it's going to take a couple of minutes to do this export here. So let's speed this up and let it finish. It will export all morphs and generate files for them. So it's quite big files and a lot of data generated. We are almost done here now. There we are. The file has been exported, and we can now have a look at some of the morphs that we are using. So if we look at these X-away morphs, they're quite useful. If we check one here, we can take... let's try the knee. As you can see, it removes parts of the knee, but only the character itself. It doesn't touch the clothes. So if you have a pair of pants, it won't make any change for those. Everything works as before. And this is quite good to avoid poke through and things like that. You can shrink down the character where we can't actually see it. So that's useful. Where we have the shin bone. Get much thinner. It doesn't work here with the shorts, but with a pair of pants it would work great, especially around the hip area, the chest, and if you have long sleeves around the armpits and things like that. It's very good to have some X-away. These are extra morphs you have to buy. They usually don't come with the characters, but they're fairly cheap, and there's for most of the different Genesis generations. So they're quite useful, so they're worth buying. It can be useful for the shoes also, to shrink down the skin of the feet so they fit well into the shoe and you don't get any poke through there. So there's a couple of other ones you might find useful. So let's take a look here. The FBX file is not so big, it's 36 megabytes. And here we have the basic images. We don't get all images. Often bump maps and displacement maps are missing. We have to find them manually ourselves, but we have the basic diffuse and transparency and stuff like that. So here we have the shorts, for example, and a bump map for the shorts. So it's a good starting point. We just have to add the other ones ourselves if we need them. It's a little bit up to you. We can have a look here in DAZ if we select, for example, the shorts, and then we can go to the surface tab, and we can look at one of the materials here, for example. And if we take a look at the diffuse button, we have the map there, and we can just click on this and pick the browse menu item. If we do that, we go to the folder where those files are, and we can save this folder and remember it, or copy these files to the folder where we exported, so we have them later on if we need them. You may need other maps that are not included in the FBX export, so it's good to keep track of where they are. You can see we have different colors also if you want to change materials and things like that. So now we have it exported. Now we just need to get it into LightWave. So here we are in layout, and we're going to try to import this one. There are two ways to do it, a bad one and a good one. I thought I would show you the bad one first, just to see why it's bad. So we choose export, and we don't use the interchange FBX import. That's not good for this. We're going to use the normal FBX import instead. So we go to the folder where our files are. And we look it up. And here we are with our FBX file. So we can select it and open it. It's going to ask for the content folder. We won't change that now. And after a little while, the important part comes where we need to choose how to do rotations. So here is the folder where it's going to place the imported files, the scene and object files for LightWave. We don't need to play with the scale. That will be correct. We can use bones or joints. Bones don't work well at all. Don't use that. We can use joints. LightWave joints and Maya joints are the same thing. They just display different in LightWave, so you can use either one. They will work fine. I'm going to use LightWave joints here for this import. Over there, we have the rotation import. We have the choice between bake rotations, or we can use a modifier. We can't use the bake rotations. I'm going to try it here, and we're going to see how bad it is. It takes a while to import the file. I've speeded up the import here also for us, so we don't have to wait for too long. So here we have almost imported the file, just a little short moment here and we should be done. Come on, you can do it. There we are. And here we have the imported character. Looking good so far. We have a rig, we have a character, we have materials. So it's kind of look good with a quick overview. But we have some problems with this rig. I'm going to zoom in on the hand here because that's where it's most obvious. The other bones are okay-ish, most of them, but there are more of them. So we're going to select the index finger here. And as you can see, the rotation axes are all over the place here. The coordinate system is actually aligned with the world axis. And you can see if you rotate around, this is the only one that works perpendicular to the finger, but that's the wrong direction. So the other two axes are all over the place and not very useful at all. This is a total disaster. We can't bend the fingers. Animations will work because they will have this rotation included on all the axes. It's baked. So that would be okay, but we can't use this to animate it ourselves. So this is a no-go. we have absolutely no use for this whatsoever. So let's clear the scene and import again. And this time we are going to import with motion modifiers instead, the rotation order modifier. So we pick the file again, and we get to the dialog box. Any moment now, it should pop up here. There you are. So instead of bake rotations, we're going to use the motion plugin now. And we're going to import the scene again. And again, I'm speeding this up now. It takes about 1.5 to 2 minutes to do the import. So it's a bit slow, but it's only the first import. It's because all the morphs, there are many hundreds of morphs there now. They get duplicated on different items. So there's a lot of them. And that's why it takes time to import. You see, it's over a minute already down there, and it's going to be more before it's finished. But we're almost done now. There we are. It looks pretty much the same. We have the character, we have the rig, we have materials. So let's go back to that hand again and see if it has improved anything. I'm going to just get it a little closer so we can see it. There we are. Okay. We're going to use the same finger, the same bone. Click on it. And as you can see, the rotation is still messed up the same way. It looks terrible. This cannot work. Well, you have to remember you have the modifiers applied to these bones now. So the rotation order is also changed, which makes it a little bit more complicated. But if we try to drag on the bank axis, the finger actually bends the way it should. Don't look at the rotation rings in the viewport. They go all over the place, but these are before we apply the rotation fix for it. So that's causing the problem. If we make a top view, you can see that we are aligned with the world coordinate system here. And that's the problem, of course. So how is this fixed so it works? Well, it's all done by the rotation modifier. So if we take a look at it, we have it here. You can see the rotation order is HBP in LightWave, but here it's set to ZYX. So the rotation order messes things up for us because they don't rotate in the same order, and that makes things look a little bit strange. But let's ignore that for now. What's interesting here is we have pre-rotation of 36 degrees. Pre-rotation is done on the coordinate system before it does the actual bend. And if you look here at the coordinate system, if you look at the blue line and the green line, there's about 90 degrees between them. And the finger is almost in the middle, around 45 degrees, but a little less. So 36 degrees sounds correct. And it pre-rotates the coordinate system 36 degrees on the heading, and that's the red ring. And that makes the coordinate system point in the same direction as the finger. And because of that, when we drag the bank axis, that's the blue one, you can see it from above here. This has now been rotated 36 degrees down. So when we rotate bank, that means that our finger will actually rotate the way it should. And that is why it works. This doesn't work if you bake the rotation. It requires the rotation modifier for this. And this is the whole secret with making this working. It's not the most beautiful solution in the world, but it's okay. And we can see here, if we set the pre-rotation to 0 degrees, the finger gets bent here, but that's because we now have rotation on the heading. If we set this back to 0, the actual rotation we add to it. So if we go down and set this all to 0, the finger gets correct again. But if we now try to rotate the finger, it's gonna be bad again, just like with the baked rotations. As you can see, it rotates all over the place. That's not good. That's not what we want. But now the actual rotation axis is fairly close to normal. That's because the other axes are not so much affected. If we set this back to 36 degrees again and rotate on the back axis, it's back to working again. So this is the secret to getting the FBX imported to works. Don't bake rotations, use the rotation modifier instead, and you should be fine. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other joints here. Here we have the elbow, and a problem here is that it rotates around the heading, not the pitch, which is a downside. That means we can't use the muscle flexing and joint compensation settings for the pitch axis. It's a little bit of a downside, but it's no big deal. We have morphs for that in DAZ, so we can use that instead. It's difficult to fix, but it's no disaster, and it's pretty much something we can live with. The legs are better. That are pretty much aligned with the world coordinate system. So here we have the pitch axis correct. So when we bend the knee, we can actually apply muscle flex and joint compensation and things like that. So that's good. The legs are usually much easier to work with. There's less problems with these. Okay, so we have a rig that kind of works now, and that's a good starting point for the rest of these videos, I hope. We should take a look on the files we have. As you can see here, if we find the file structure here, we have the objects here. That's a seam file, and there are the object files. And as you can see, these are big. The sneakers are 385 megabytes, and the hair is 238 megabyte, and the actual character shape is 123 megabyte. The shorts are 169, and the top is 86 megabytes. So we need to cut this down. That's a crazy big size. And most of it is because of all the morphs. So we need to clean up there a little bit. So if we select the hair object, like this, and then we click on the modeler button, or F12, to get it over to modeler, we can take a look at the morphs. It takes a few seconds to pop up here. It's a big file with lots of morphs in it. There we are. I can press A to make it fit better in the viewport. And we can make it texture map so we can see it a little bit better. So that's the hair we're going to use. It's a separate object. And if we click on the vertex maps here, F8, we can see all the morphs here. Here they are. It's a quite long list of them. And this is the hair. Most of these morphs are absolutely not needed at all here, because the hair is not affected by knee movements or if we have facial expressions, at least not most of them. So we can actually delete most of them. There are a number of hair morphs included here. I don't need them, so I think we can delete pretty much everything here. We can see here, if we go to eyes closed, you can see the morphs for the hair actually does change a little bit when we close the eyes. If you want to keep these or not is up to you. I really don't think it adds much to anything, and the hair is quite heavy on polygons, so I'm going to remove all the morphs on the hair. We're going to add physics to this later, so we really don't need any morphs. If we do, we can always add them later, if that will be a problem. So if we go up and pick the first morph, and then we scroll down to the bottom and hold down Shift and click on the last morph, we select them all. Again, this takes a little while to do. There's going to be a check mark in the select column when they are selected. So I'm speeding this up a little bit. It takes 15-20 seconds or so to actually select them when there's this many. There they are, that's selected, and then we right-click anywhere. We can check the size first here. So it's 238 megabyte now. We right-click and select delete. Again, it takes a little time to get them deleted. So we have to speed this up a little bit. They will be gone soon. There we are. No more left. We're going to save the object. And if we now take a look, we went from 238 megabyte to 6 megabyte. So that's quite a big change. And this is the main reason for the big files. So let's go back here and take a look on the other objects also. So let's go with the let's take the shoes. They were very big also. We really don't need any more for the shoes either. So I think we can delete all of them here also. We just pick the first one and we go to the end, shift and click on the last one. And then we can take a look here and we see the file now is for sneakers is 385 megabyte. That's a lot of shoe. Okay, we have to wait a little bit for them to be deleted. It takes a few seconds. There, they're gone. Okay. If we go back now and save it, and then we have a look at the, we went from 385, I think it was, to 14 megabytes. So that's not bad. Okay, we're getting much smaller files now. Okay, so that was 2 objects. Let's take a look at the other ones. Here we start to be a little bit more careful because we need to keep some of the morphs for the other objects. So let's go with the shorts now. Look at them before we send them to modeler. And here they are. And we can take a look at the morphs here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see it better. So these first morphs, they are all facial expressions. They will not have any effect at all on the shorts. So we can just delete these. They don't feel any purpose at all here. The bend fix and the bend helper are actually to fix the mesh when you bend over. So these are good to keep because we might need them later. These ones are for the chest area, all of them. And we don't need that for the shorts, so we can remove all of these. I think we need to keep the bottom one because that's for the shorts. Let's set this to wireframe instead so we can see what's going on here. That doesn't affect anything. That one does. Yeah, that's the rear. Okay, we can keep that. And that's for sitting down and things like that. We can have changed to the shorts so they fit better. So we do the same for the first one was for the left side. So these are for the right side, LG and RG. Armpit, not interesting. Smile, don't need that one either. The calf we don't need. Cheeked we don't need. Control lips and mouth, no facial expressions, eye bags, forehead. There's nothing we need to keep here, I think. Nope, we can delete them. Okay, we have more facial expressions. Then we have some glute morphs. We need to keep these because they will most likely affect the shorts. Yeah, we can see we're most likely going to need these later on. Hip loosen, that's for the JCMs, forearms we don't need, chin we don't need, shoulder no. The thigh bones may affect the shorts, so Let's take a look at them and see if we need to keep them. Yes, we can see. So let's delete those also. Here we have more facial expressions. Some of them are for other characters. We definitely do not need them at all, but not for the shorts either. So let's just clean them up. I'm going to speed these up a little bit. There's a lot of morphs, so it takes some time. So let's just... We're going to remove almost everything of this, I think. Yeah, that's the belly. Yeah, we keep that. These are for the speaking, and the X-away are only for the character, not for the clothes. So we can always remove these, no problem. The sneakers are now fixed. We have the shorts, they're 169 megabyte. Let's save this. And see, we went from 169 to 11 megabyte. That's a good save too. Okay, let's back to layout again. And now we need to have a look at the top. Same thing here, we're going to need to keep some of them, but not the same as for the shorts. It's basically the opposite of the shorts here. So here we have the top. Zoom in a little. And here we have the morphs, and these are facial expressions. We usually do not need them. Some for the breast here, we need to keep those. The armpit is good. These ones we can remove. And the breast morphs, we need to keep. All the expressions we can remove. I don't think there are any ones we need to actually keep. Some of the JCMs here, we can just click on them and see if they do anything. In that case, we save them for now. We can always delete them later if we don't need them. Lots of facial expressions. Let's just delete all of them. We don't need them. We may need to keep some of these here. These are for the top. No. These are small. Abdomen. Speaking X-away, we can remove all of these. You can basically just try and see which one has any effect on the mesh and see if you think you need it or not. It's definitely a matter of what you think you need and what you don't need, how much flexibility you need. You can always add morphs later, so it's no disaster if you remove too much. It's just a little bit more work. Okay. Let's take a look at the actual character then. So here we are. And this is a little bit different because here we need to keep some morphs. And we can remove some that are actually not interesting. So let's have a look. Those bend and bend helper. We can actually delete these because this is the character. It's enough to have them on the actual shorts, because we won't see the character inside the shorts. So it's okay to remove them here. We just make that part transparent later on. There may be some when you have close to, we have the shorts here and you have the cover part of the thigh. So you may want to keep these morphs, for example, because when the skin goes outside and you see part of the skin, it's good to have the morphs. We can remove some. We need to keep all the facial expressions here. We're going to take a look at them later. We do this first. There's some X-away morphs we don't need. Some of them are useful. I'm going to keep most of them for now. We can clean this up later. Let's zoom in on the face here and make it textured so we can see better. And here we have all the facial expressions. So here it's more a question of just going through them, see which one you like and which ones you don't like, and remove the other ones. So there's a lot of eye and lip movement. They're good to have. I'm going to keep most of them. Some of them are terribly ugly, so I'm going to delete them. We can modify them a little bit if we need later on. JCMs we're going to keep. More facial expression. These that are for other characters, we have Aiko and some other characters, they don't do anything with this mesh, so we can just delete them. Lots of eye movement here. And there is some Giselle and Harmony and other characters. They don't do anything, so we can just delete them. We have absolutely no use for them on this character. It's just because of my filter. When I export in the morph, I get more morph than I wanted. So I have to clean them up now. As I said, it's better to get too many than too few. These are more for other characters, so let's get rid of them too. Again, I'm just, if there's ugly ones, just delete them. Eye movement is good, lip movement is good to save because you can make small adjustments to them. Individual eyelids and things like that, and more screaming and shouting and mouth movement. We'll keep these, and then we have the speaking morphs. Keep them, and the X away. And I think we are pretty happy. There's a few X away I really don't need here. But otherwise we keep them for now. There's more facial expressions. Yeah, I think that's good. So there's quite a lot of morphs in this one. It's not going to be as small as the other one if we save it. So that's good. Okay, so we're pretty much done with this part for now. We can see the file is 81 megabytes, so it's a little bit smaller, but not that much. But that's okay. The other ones are much smaller, and we're down to about a third of the total memory before. So this is the end of the first part. And the next time we're going to move on with IK and other things. I hope you found something you liked here, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.